I'm going into the gym, but I just read an article and it's so good and it's so important. I had to do a nooner because it's noon and that's how we roll. So, really good work. I think last week I did one of his pieces. This guy's he's a prolific writer and a very, very good writer. And his name's Shanaka Anselm Pereira. Okay. And the article's entitled The Growth Miracle and the Six Fractures, Anthropic at 380 billion. Now, I just looked it up. The market cap of, while I talk about this, you can think of Palantir, Ethereum, and Anthropic are all roughly the same market cap. And if you know the history of Ethereum, in 2017, I think Ethereum went to I think it went to 4,000, which gives it a market cap of like 600, $700 billion. And even the founder of Vitalik Buterin was like, have we built anything yet? So inside the foundation, they sold their own stock down. It's not stock, but you know what I mean? That's a better way to think of it for this conversation. And I think they turned Ethereum into like at least 50% cash, maybe 70% cash. And then it went from like 4,000 down to 2,000, where it is today. So just for fun, let's just pretend like Palantir, Ethereum, and Anthropic are all the same market cap. Ethereum created the first, excuse me, Ethereum created the youngest billionaire, Vitalik Buterin. So last week, the software NASDAQ complex took it right between the eyes as Anthropic raised all this capital. And then a day later, the ethics guy left Anthropic. I did a piece on that. So they raised $30 billion. It's the largest private raise of capital ever. Okay. Think of private equity like real estate, venture capital, private equity. It's sort of all the same thing. This was the largest chunk of money ever put in a company in history. Not to be confused with an IPO when you go to the NASDAQ and you ring the buzzer, ring the bell, and you go public and you can go, $100 billion happens all the time. So this guy does a great job of, whether you're a sophisticated investor or sort of just casually think about your 401k, this is 27 times revenue. Now, Palantir, I just looked, is like about $10 billion in revenue, and it trades for 300 billion. So they're like all trading for these 30x, not earnings, 30x of revenue. Okay. Now he makes this really good point. And he says, you're not really investing in the company. The $30 billion was like buying a call option on the company. In other words, the $30 billion that was put in the company on a valuation so over the top that it really is almost like, unless Anthropic shoots the moon and grows at 10x, it's going to fall apart. So let me give you just a little bit more. 10x. A week before they took this money in, the CEO said, if a couple things go wrong, we could be bankrupt within 12 months. My thesis in all this is, whether you're looking at Ethereum or Anthropic or Palantir and things, this is now what the financial markets are for. In other words, if you really said, what is America's technology? Market cap is America's technology. The ability to make something from nothing is what America does now. There's lots of great AI projects. China here, there's a big convention in India. Like, do people really think that like the nation of India isn't going to be able to write code or something? Like, Most of the software that's created in the United States, probably 30% of it's written in India. There's probably a number out there somewhere. And it's 90% cheaper to develop things there. I worked with a group about two and a half years ago. We didn't finish it, but we got a lot done, and it was very, very cheap. That's why I use them. Anyways, if you take a look at this article, inside this analysis, I'm quoting, the precise mechanism by which Anthropic's unit economics diverge from its narrative, the customer concentration paradox that turns its fastest growing product into a threat to its largest revenue source, the three distribution walls that closed simultaneously in January 26, and the $4.5 billion legal minefield that names the founder personally. The Pentagon standoff that transformed a safety brand into a revenue constraint. That's the piece we did. The ethics guy left. He's like, we have no idea what we're doing here. We are in peril, he said. And the competitive convergence that is collapsing the technical moat on which the entire valuation thesis depends. This isn't an argument that this is going to zero or it's going to go down. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying the numbers, whether you look at those three enterprises, Ethereum. See, Ethereum is a little bit different because it's not a C Corp. It doesn't it doesn't really have revenue and earnings. It has lots of cash flow, and it has a coin, which is really like a stock, anyways, but they're all about the same, roughly the same market cap. And, maybe all three of them will go up 10x in the next 10 years, maybe not. But the numbers are absolutely, they're like .com numbers, and nobody gives a shit anymore. Nobody even cares that we're replicating all the great bubbles. That's my point to you, is that's what American finance now is, which we're this far away from being done, of having a robo-advisor registered, an investment advisor registered. And that's going to be the theme of the investment advisor, is we don't really know how this works. We don't even know, like Palantir is worth $330 billion. Will Palantir was hacked recently, by the way. It's common knowledge now that it's used in warfare in Gaza and other places, and it's getting hacked. So they stood up, Palantir and Alex Karp stood up and said, we're going to hack whoever we want. And if we don't like them, we're going to use the kill chain and execute them. I'm not making this up. This is all over YouTube, all over the social media. And this applies to Russia, China, and Iran. Well, you don't just think that they're just going to sit back and just like wait for their phone to blow up in their pocket. My question to you is, the founder of Clawbot, that made 1.6 million agents create their own religion and their own currency, has just been hired by OpenAI. Why? Because OpenAI doesn't have anything. OpenAI just has the initial big burst of numbers and really can't get out of its own way, and nobody likes Sam Altman. What are we going to, like, how do you even invest with these almost fanatical market caps? It's almost like we're making market cap to make market. In other words, we're making like extreme market caps, like almost like an Enron kind of a thing, because we know that the math doesn't really work. So we need some sort of breakthrough. What's the word? We need something that like has a infinite trajectory. I think the word I'd like to use is infinite machine. That's the book about Ethereum. Anyways, I just wanted to reference this real quick for a quick nooner. We are in like high noon of high valuations, and that is not an argument that says everything's going to collapse. That's an argument to just say, like, what is real under all this? Lastly, the gross profit margin of Anthropic is at about 27%. And the underwriting is done as though it has a Is it gross or net? Either way, it's similar. The underwriting is done as though it has a 70% margin. But my question to you is, if anybody can go get agents, thousands of them, for $10,000 and they can write code, how does anybody have a moat around their business? Lastly, we took lambs to market the other day and we had a profit margin of 70% on lambs. Anthropic has a 27% margin. Have a nice week.